Hello.
Yeah, M.
So my first question for you, how's my audio?
It sounds impeccable.
Well, yours sucks as always.
At least I'm consistent. The only consistent thing in my entire life.
I
Along
congratulate you.
along with my weight gain.
Oh, still gaining, eh?
Okay, well, I'll be honest. It has been pretty flat since the beginning of this year, so I'm happy.
Yeah, congrats. That's
Thanks.
good, right?
Well, it's not. I'm not gaining weight, so which is a considerable improvement since 2010. So I
Mhm.
plateaued. I plateaued. So
Yeah, let's just say it's good and move on. What's our topic tonight?
work.
Really? Wasn't that supposed to be our topic for our previous podcast?
Yeah, the birthday one where we talked about books.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, so I was wondering if I should like completely change my calling, you know?
In what way?
I don't know, any way possible. You know,
Hmm.
recently, the beautiful, beautiful country that we live in
Yeah.
has changed, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
not the country is beautiful, really wonderful, but not the guys in charge because they started uh, making worse and worse laws to make
Uh,
things so much more difficult for people who are actually trying to make things better. You know, so I'm wondering if I should change my calling into something that simply put has a more simpler and bigger return on investment, like
oh,
or like organized crime, for example.
or organized religion. I mean,
I think like in Serbia that don't fly, but if I move to a more fruitful ground, then I'm pretty sure there's like a you know quick start guide on organized religion for United States.
a friend of mine, she has a language school, and she's constantly annoyed how people in charge here are increasing taxes for entrepreneurs. And at one point, she got so angry, she simply said, "I can't, I can't do this anymore. I'll simply rebrand as a religion. It will be called Wealth Witnesses because her language school is called Wealth, and she lost it. And I think that the great change that you're referring to is the change when it comes to IT entrepreneurs. Am I right?
Yeah, that's the one.
It is complicated. Can you give a short rundown for our people who don't understand the law?
Oh, but it's so boring, man. The thing is, I have like this other podcast that has been inactive for 3 years, right? And it's a local podcast. It's called IT Serbia podcast. And like we just published an episode just like that, like impromptu ad hoc episode about this thing. And we had 1,500 listeners just on YouTube, not even counting iTunes and all those other platforms where you can get the podcast. But we had like 1.5K listeners in like during the weekend. It's such a controversial thing that just happened. That is actually happening right now. But
Yeah.
it all boils down to whoever is in charge in Serbia obviously sees that IT is blossoming in Serbia, and they're like,
Yeah.
can we get a piece of this cake? Yes, we can. Like, let's make laws that say that we can get a bigger piece of the cake. Uh,
Oh
you
no
know,
no 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 no! It's not. Can I get the piece of the cake? It is. can I leave them a piece of this cake?
Oh well, yeah. If you want to go into details, the piece of the cake that they are after is quite a big piece of the cake. But anyways, it's a long, long, long and boring story, but it is somewhat of a start. Obviously, I am in IT
Yeah,
in ways, and what would you say your business domain is?
I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, sure. So what's your business domain?
I'm an entrepreneur.
No, you're not.
My business domain, or as we call it here, the code, is business consulting, the most elusive of all codes, because you can put anything there, you know.
That's what I was gonna say. That's basically nothing.
Yeah, I could be a professional practicing necromancer, and that will be business consulting
Yeah,
with the dead,
literally.
but with the dead.
Yeah, but anyways, you come from like a legal studies background, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
by the way, our entrepreneurship laws are so dated. You have probably read those codes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we call it the codes. There are seven codes, depending on how heavily you're taxed. So the lower codes are taxed the easy, are tax have the lowest taxes, while the higher ones, like for example, the lawyers have highest taxes.
For example, the lawyers, you mean for example, IT.
Or IT, yeah,
Go
precisely.
on.
And but guys, those professions, okay, I understand there some of them still exist, but you can definitely see that the law was made like 50 plus years ago, or at least that's how long they didn't touch those codes. For example, you have blanket makers, fullers, wheel
Yeah,
makers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
You basically
yeah.
you basically expect like Fletchers, or
Yeah,
something like that.
practically. Yeah,
Yeah,
practically. If you didn't have places where you can buy meat, you would literally have butchers as a profession.
but
Um,
butchers are still exist. A lot of these professions, I'm certain, no longer. You have wheel makers. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. You see, you probably had a bigger interest in going into that much details when you read those codes.
yeah,
I didn't, honestly. All I wanted to know was who has the biggest taxes, because I was trying to see if I'm gonna pay the biggest tax, which I probably am. So now I remember this like blog post that I read.
yeah,
I don't know. It could have easily been like 7 or even 10 years ago. And I
yeah.
remember the title of the blog post that actually started quite a following for somebody online was, "In Hungary, it's no longer funny," because the guy explained how the state devastates small business owners and how
Okay.
it makes things absolutely unbearable
Hmm.
for doing business legally. And I remember that post now because uh, I've been keen on like doing like an entire series of
Yeah,
videos or audio posts or something about how it's really really no longer funny in Serbia.
yeah,
Like I'll tell you this, being from IT, I can tell you that so many people from this industry here in Serbia
yeah.
uh, have pretty much the same way of thinking. They would all like to have something on the side which has nothing to do with IT, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like usually, like there's two very common directions. Some would like to somehow work with food, right? Like food
Okay,
production or simply breeding tomatoes or something. I don't know. Like
interesting.
organic food, for example. But
Okay, that's
if
random.
yeah, and but it's not random. It's actually pretty smart. Organic food, it's a huge market. There's a lot of export. You just don't know much about it, so you're probably not thinking that direction. But also eating your own food, and people who are not in IT are really have this bigger standard than the rest of the country. They are the
Okay.
ones who are pushing some different industries
Yeah.
to blossom as well. Like when a big IT center opens, for
Yeah.
example, in a city in Serbia, what
Yeah.
follows immediately are bakeries, all kinds of different grocery stores, basically opening it up around that center because there's going to be people there who are going to be hungry all the
Yeah.
time, all the time. And
And if IT industry goes to shreds in Serbia, that will devastate the electric scooter industry.
oh yeah, but that industry is basically just starting. It will, in reality, dude, it will devastate a lot of things.
I
You know,
know, I know, I
yeah,
know.
but the second thing that
Domino
people are,
effect.
sorry.
Domino effect.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And the second thing that people are constantly talking about is opening up a coffee shop. Believe it or not, those are the two absolute, winners when it comes to people thinking about what they could do on the side, which could potentially turn into like a, you know, full on, you know, business thing. And the problem with the coffee shop thing is anybody who's ever even even remotely attempted to actually make a step in that
Yeah,
direction, they immediately come across the reality of having a coffee shop in like, for example, Belgrade, Serbia,
yeah.
which is basically you have to have dealings with the mob, you know.
Precisely, precisely, and that is why I would never open a business like that in Serbia. And by the way, can I comment on the tomato business?
Well, it's not tomato per se. It could be
Okay,
anything else.
yeah, but when you said it, I immediately imagined an IT guy having tomatoes and everything tomato related for breakfast, lunch, and supper. But yeah, there was this movie that I read ages ago, and I laughed so hard. Like, uh, I really like these kind of people who think that in the case of a World War III or some such huge disaster, they would simply move away from society and live on a farm.
Sure.
Guys, farmers get up at 5 a.m. You haven't gotten up before 10 p.m. 10 a.m. in these last 10 years. You wouldn't last a day on a farm. So this tomato plant sounds just as um, it has a huge reality and Sue's potential, you know?
Oh, you know what? That also reminds me of some people who are like, the last days are coming,
Yeah,
and we're all gonna be literally running, to live in the mountains and stuff like that, which
yeah.
is a bit, oh, it's a bit exaggerated to say the least.
Why is it
And there's, yeah, a lot of people whom I've spoken to who are of that sort of mentality. Like they wouldn't last a freaking day, uh, in a mountain with full internet access, you
yeah,
know, let alone, hidden or segregated or something like that. But again, we are flying away from from our topic, which is supposed to be about work.
well,
I hear you were
yes,
a part of this great team once, and then you
yes,
quit. Then you quit that job, leaving everybody in tears. Uh,
yes.
and basically, you never had a better job ever, and will probably never, never, ever have a better job. So,
Well,
yeah. Is
you
that true?
know, I've had three jobs so far that were
Really?
actual real jobs,
Just three?
just three.
Or
I'm a 32-year-old guy.
you're, well, I know a lot of 25-year-olds who had like 10.
But you're in IT business. You don't have an idea how difficult it is to find work when you don't work in IT.
Yeah, I am in a bubble.
Yeah. So let me dethrone you from your ivory tower, old archmage, and hear my story of pain, which isn't really a story of pain, but it's fine.
Yeah, but it's yeah. Look. You have to be the storyteller. So feel
Yeah.
free to turn it into a drama.
Okay. Year was 2000, I don't know what. So anyway, I had 3 jobs, and each came with heavy pluses and heavy. Sorry, I started using Serbian idiom. Each came with great pros and great cons. Job number one. I don't want to go into too much detail what I exactly did because it's boring. But let's say it was proofreading. For for all purposes, that is what it was. Okay, cons. Absolutely to progress in that work because it was a government sort of business. So you're basically stranded career-wise. Uh, the work I did was very boring, very tedious. I wasn't good at it. When I tried my best to be good at it, it didn't show, and it annoyed me a whole lot. And because of that work, I became really depressed. Actually, I quit that job. I realized just how much depressed I was. And me starting Bible Illustrated was a big push in healing my depression during that work. However, were excellent, and I was so blessed, and thank God for this, that this was a recurring motive in my every line of work. Everywhere I went, I was surrounded by terrific people. Maybe
Hold on.
who, but we never had a monster that everybody is. Yeah,
Fair enough. You're still there?
I'm holding on.
No, no. I wanted to ask, is that the job where you had
Okay,
those guys report
I
like
thought you
that
stopped
somebody
talking.
was arrested by like the guys in black? That's the third job. And the second job was the job that I was referring to.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was the
so
third
so
job.
let me remind you of something
Yeah,
actually. Um, I
yeah,
didn't, know the details, but I I do remember when you got
yeah,
offered the second job, you were actually super excited to just change your job.
yeah, yeah. Yes. Oh no, 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 no. Wait, wait. I have to supplement your claim. Uh, I I didn't quit my first job because you offered me the second job. I intended to quit anyway, and your
So
offer
what
was
you're
a
saying
move
is
of
I was just a
providence.
tool.
And then later on, I got a better
So
move by
what you're saying
providence.
is I was just a tool. Yeah, I've been called worse, so it's fine.
Sorry? You were always just a tool. And I love it how it works in English. So those were the cons. The pros, again, terrific people, and the work atmosphere was relatively
You were
relaxed,
paid
relatively.
peanuts.
Uh, uh, but the biggest pro of that work, after the people, was that it was okay. That was a con also, but oh well. But the biggest pro of that work was that it was so close to my home. I was, as my friend would say, I was home. It took me 5 minutes by chair to get to my workplace. The only closer workplace I ever had was when I worked with you, and it will make sense in context later. Yeah, so that was the first job. The second job was working for uh, my previous boss, herein referred to as M. He offered me to work
Yeah, I mean it's
as
one
help desk
Google
for
away
his app. Shall
from
we keep it
anybody anyways,
confidential which
but
one it is?
it's not help desk, it was customer support representative, and it's not for an app, it was for an online product. Good thing you brought something with you from that work.
Okay. Okay, I won't name the app, but it's Grinder. So anyway, uh, imagine if we were actually making such an app, like we were like passwords as
Yeah,
Christians,
just to
but we
remind
on
you,
Tinder, Grinder,
you've
and
spoken to somebody who is like on
something even
5 different dating
more,
apps,
like
out of
24
which
app.
he said that four of them are Christian dating
Yeah,
apps, which to me was like, whoa, these things exist. What the hell is that? And I still haven't even tried to like Google it, but I think I will now that you mentioned this and I remember that. I'm like super curious as to how does that work,
yeah.
because in Serbia, for example, when it comes to like Christian dating, you would
You
basically have different people visiting like a
okay?
monastery where there's like this uh, Orthodox Christian version of a guru, this monk that everybody likes, and he'd be like, I think you two are good for each other, and it works, So in
Yeah.
in Orthodox Christianity, you don't need an app. You just need to find, yeah, a priest
Oh,
more or less, but a monk who's who's good at networking.
a priest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, those were the original networks. It still works.
Stop it.
Second job, working for as a customer representative for an online product. Okay, so why? How was this closer? Well, simply I worked from home, so that the other. So cons, there weren't
Yeah,
any.
you know what? Do not,
Remove the gun from my temple,
testify
and
falsely, whatever the English version of it is.
yeah,
That's perfectly fine. There are no
okay,
if
but I will remind you that
if
that can work
matters.
against you.
Do this, but you know,
No, no, no.
unless
Okay, okay. So pros. Again, terrific people to work with. Again, no problematic
Yep.
people. It was great. Um, I would consider myself the most problematic people in that clique. People I worked with were quite the standard fare of horror customers that you encounter, and I think it is exactly the same in any other customer service line of work. You know the kind of people that can I speak to your manager? People who don't speak English, people who
But it
don't
was
realize
fun.
how the online product works, and so on. So it was everything. Uh, uh, it was fun. Yeah, it was always something new, and I loved it. I'll mix pros and cons. Con, working hours. Good God. Like, it was 6 days a
Alternated
week,
between two shifts.
nine hours
Did you
per
want to?
day, and it alternated.
Yeah.
It alternated. One week it was between two shifts. However, that was the biggest pro because because in the last 6 years, I've never had more sleep. Never, because when I worked the afternoon shift, I slept until I woke up naturally. My brain regenerated, you know? And that is what I miss the most. Sync meetings, not so much. They were, but not so much.
Well, I
Team
can't
building
say
was
you deserved it, but
great. I
since you
loved
were
team
there,
building.
you know,
That was terrific.
we had to bring you along.
Yeah, yeah. And my final line of work, which by the way, when I got offered this third job, M, it hurt me so much to resign from your online product. So much. It was the exact opposite of quitting the previous work. Previous work was I wanted to launch confetti over this entire city. Here, oh man, I was so depressed. I was like, oh man, I just got here. I didn't even got the chance
You know
to
what?
hate it. It's horrible.
You kind of sucked at the job.
I was literally saying that. I didn't have the chance to hate it. Yeah, I think that people from the first job would agree. However, also, I must say, I'm an artistic soul. I'm an
Yeah, yeah,
artistic soul. All three standard jobs I
that would be
had
my
couldn't
conclusion
be
as well.
further from art. They had nothing in common with art. And yeah, I'm simply not cut for it. However, this third job,
Multinational project,
which
blah
is
blah blah
working
blah.
on an international project with investment maps, very artsy. Yeah, yeah, international online project. Oh man, I'll get fired if somebody hears this. Okay, everyone, but still, again, it has nothing to do with art. However, the salary is very good. People, again, are terrific. Uh, it is very fun. Again, not like first work. Uh, However, the biggest issue here is the hours. While it has standard Serbian government office working hours, sometimes I do stand to stay after hours, which isn't much of an issue. Getting there takes some time. Getting back takes much more time, and that is the biggest annoyance because when you lose an hour, like I did today, because we had a taxi cab strike. I'm not
Yeah,
much into
look.
occultism
Let me
and
give some
throwing
context. You
curses,
can't just
but
say you
man, if
hate
I
you
ever
hate
serve a
people. But
black
in Serbia,
mass, it will be
everybody
for
hates taxi
Serbian taxi
drivers.
drivers.
That's just fact. It's if you want to like see
For
real
good reason.
organized mafia, you have uh, the state and you have the taxi drivers, and that's it. Two prime examples of mafia. But anyways, what I wanted to tell you as well, you're kind of not being fair to people
Oh
who
yeah.
travel for 1.5, 2 hours every day to work and back. So your whining is absolutely unjustified. Everybody has to travel to work,
Oh,
and
I
you
know.
were just extremely lucky to, you know, be like 4 minutes from work in your first engagement, and then 0 seconds from work in your second engagement. You know, so
Okay, just some context to my whining. I agree. I agree. What I had on my first job, second so and so, was extremely lucky. Like that rarely happens. But I must say, one of my former coworkers, she got me beat.
oh.
She literally worked around the corner. If she wanted, during lunch
Yeah,
break, she could have a
I
nap. I
remember
couldn't.
when I was a kid in elementary school.
I hate her
Uh,
guts.
I lived like 5 minutes from the school, so I was literally able to go home to grab
Yeah.
lunch.
Oh, oh man.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, Dad
Warm,
was always
homemade,
working,
cooked meal.
and at that time, so it, it wasn't always possible. But I remember the convenience of having your home,
Yeah,
and your home is your, place where you feel good. Um, yeah, your little castle, and I do get it. I
yeah.
I can see
Castle.
that being like a huge deal for you, but also I'd like to comment on the um, other side of that particular situation, which is you're constantly in the same place. You know, for example, I've been
Yeah.
working remotely for the past 3+ years, and I find myself
Oh yeah.
constantly looking for ways to, you know, innovate, to introduce change, because
Yeah.
otherwise, especially since most of the time that I work alone, I mean physically alone, either in my office or, in a coffee shop or whatever. But the thing is, I am always chasing for
Yeah.
some form of diversity, some the smallest possible change that I can make so that, something actually happens around me. Because otherwise, that would be quite a change.
Change sex.
You don't get. I was talking about small changes. Like go to IKEA and buy like an artificial plant.
I,
That's the kind of change
yeah.
that I was referring to. But you just went overboard.
As they do. By the way, I just want to wrap up my whining, and then you can talk about your, aspects of your work. Um, I wouldn't whine because if I didn't produce all the content that I did, I really wouldn't care because I would have plenty of free time. But because I make so much content for other people, so it's not something for myself. It's not my some pet projects that are for me only. There is a quantitative difference
Hmm.
at you know uh, how much I
Well,
can create depending on
I
how fast I come
do
home,
want to
and
remind
that's
you
it.
that uh,
Whining over.
you had the best opportunity to create while you were working with me. I'm just saying. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I mean, we overpaid you anyways
Yeah,
for
but I
the
also
work
like the
you
money.
provided. So, no, but there's no argument. There's no argument about it.
We'll
I'm not
argue after the
I'm not saying
podcast
you
is
were the
finished.
worst because we had worse.
Anyway,
But yeah, you were definitely not really cut out for that sort of work,
you,
which was
thank you.
visible from an airplane, which is, by the way, a very Serbian thing to say, visible from an airplane. I don't think anybody says something like that, um, originally in English. But
Yeah,
yeah, but it's a good analogy. Anyways,
but
is it
you
my
understand
turn?
it anyway. So, yep.
Yeah, so I worked
If we
more
were
than
filming
three
this, I would
jobs, definitely.
press the button on the chest clock.
Um, being in the IT basically means, when a lot of people when they start their
Hmm.
career, they don't just do one job, because especially in a country such as ours, you start getting opportunities left and
Yeah,
right because you're in a very popular, business domain. And I gotta say, I have to be
yep,
very grateful for being so lucky, to have a chance to work in this industry. Because in reality, even before I've graduated from college, I started, getting
yeah.
opportunities, and I started accepting them, early on. So, um, I too worked like 2 or 3 projects in parallel. So even if I attempted to count exactly how many jobs I had, I don't think I would be able to do it. And it's probably more than 10. Um, but yeah, I've been focused on something big
Oh man.
for the past 3.5 years, along with a partner of mine from United States. I've co-founded an online company that works with advertisers and helps them deal with bad uh,
Mm-hmm.
paid ad traffic. And it's been a huge deal because you basically start from scratch and you have to employ every single thing you've ever learned um, to build something and to place it on the market and to help people with that product of yours. And it has been a ridiculously hard and fulfilling journey that is definitely still not ending. So there's so much more to go through, to learn,
Yep.
and I've been blessed for being able to have a very versatile kind of position. If you ask me like what I do there, it's I do so many things. Um, but I remained like an IT
Yeah.
person, and I think I'm going to be referring as to myself as an IT person for a long, long time. Uh,
Yeah.
I hate the terms entrepreneur and serial entrepreneur and things like that,
Yep.
um, because they are very much out of context, very much vague, and they can mean and even worse, consultant. Oh dear God, um, you know. But in front of Serbian law, I am an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and I will be taxed, because death and taxes. Um, yeah, and my jobs ranged from
And thanks
software
gladly.
development to project management, product management, um, and that I think that's about it. You know, yeah, I'm pretty much good to fix your
So
computer.
you would say that you're like good with computers, right?
I remember, and you do know that people actually still do that. People
Okay.
will come to you with their phone
Uh,
and be like, "Can you just configure this or that for me?" And or like, "Hey, I don't know why, but I can't save my photos."
yeah.
But I also want to even tell you about this crazy thing that happened to my friend. So I have these wonderful friends
Yeah.
from church. So
Okay.
so so my friend, he takes this wonderful you know, photos like from an event or something, and his wife politely asks to see the photos, and he gives her the phone,
Yeah.
and she like goes through the photos, and the
Okay.
photos are so great, she immediately wants to share them with a broad community of mutual friends. And um, there's the option that sounds very much like the Serbian word share, but it's actually delete. You get it, right?
Yeah.
So she quote unquote shared all those photos.
No. Oh no. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
the word. Okay.
literally shared it with oblivion. And I mean,
Shared it with Oblivion.
the good thing about it, he's an IT guy, so he freaking recovered the photos. But up to this date, it remains one of my, favorite laughable things about people using the phone. Um, because she was like, okay, share, so click, bam, done. Okay, where the hell are the photos? Um, I remember, for example, my parish priest asking me to buy him like internet cable.
Okay.
dude, I did. I was like, sure, somebody asked a favor of me, and
Okay,
I
yeah,
literally went uh like 500 meters from the church and bought him a freaking cable. And I was like, here's the cable, you know.
by the way, I don't know how many times I've said this. At least 20. At least 20.
Oh,
Somebody
nice.
asks me, like, B, you're good with computers, right? And I reply, no, I just wear glasses. You have no idea how many people assume you're good with computers just because you wear glasses and look sort of geeky, you know? Even if
But
you have no idea. I mean, I'm better than average here, but like I wouldn't know how to fix a lot of things. And what things I do know how to fix, it is always like uh, Google. I
uh,
Google
look,
my
for
interest domains
anybody
of
ever
mystery game won't
experiencing this
start. My
problem,
documents issue. Bam,
somebody
it's fixed.
asking of them to like fix their computer or do something with their phone, there's a universal reply you can use to literally shake them off in a second, which is go ask a 10-year-old. Problem solved. No, really, really, problem solved. Because these kids, they
Oh yeah.
freaking grew up
Oh
with
yeah.
technology that we could only dream of when we were kids. You know,
Yeah.
like my 2.5-year old, she uses the tablet as well as I can, as well as I freaking can.
Yeah.
And there's this kid that she was given a photo, like a real photo, and she tried to slide left.
That reminded me of an like old kids book, and like there's a family of bears, and they're talking with Granny Bear, and the Granny Bear is on that old phone uh,
Oh
that looks
yeah.
like a black tube, and the receiver is sort of like a small horn that you place. And as she's holding that ancient phone, there's a huge family photo of her family. I mean, she's not on the photo, but her son or daughter with her husband and kids. And she's watching that photo on her table as she's speaking on the phone. And some kid asks, "Is she on Skype?"
Yeah,
The way that
so
they drew
something I
it,
can
it
recommend,
totally looks
which
like
is
that, except that
it's
they
such a
didn't have
brilliant
Skype
idea.
then.
There's a YouTube channel that does teenagers react to something, or elderly
Yeah,
react to something, and they would react on different, things like
yeah, that's
music, fashion, TV shows, and those comments are
prompts.
like precious. You know, they're precious. One thing I wanted to ask you, and mind you, it is a serious
Oh yeah,
question. I know it's completely off topic, but what is your
yeah.
recommended way of dealing with mosquitoes?
Yes. Okay. Black Mass. No, seriously. Okay. I don't know because I have lost so many hours of sleep due to mosquitoes because my apartment it
Hmm.
overlooks this courtyard and they're breeding like mad somewhere there, And for the past 2 months, every time I
Yeah,
go to sleep, there is
torturing you, literally
precisely one
torturing you. Yeah.
mosquito that's hovering above my head. It's driving me insane. I can't sleep. They can have all the blood they want. Just don't buzz above my ear. I don't know how to deal with them. I have become especially aggressive towards insects. Like until a couple of months ago, I was like sort of like Buddhisty. Oh, everything should stay alive. Now,
Yeah, that was
no,
gonna be my
I'm
next
killing
question. So
them.
you wouldn't be opposed to like
Everything:
just killing a
cockroaches,
mosquito?
stink bugs, mosquitoes. I'm
Yeah,
no.
so I'll tell you the best way to
I
deal with
will
mosquitoes is to always
slaughter the
have
life out of them.
a disposable deodorant and a lighter. And
That sounds so dangerous that we immediately have to emphasize that Church Mouse Chronicles podcast isn't responsible for any injury, death, or maiming caused by our audience attempting
yes,
this
but
at
also
home.
it's a very
Don't
effective
try
method,
this at home.
which
We are
I'm gonna
untrained
demonstrate to you
professionals.
right now because I have a mosquito floating right above my head who has been torturing me for the entire length of this recording. You hear this? Yeah, you know what that is, right? That's the lighter. It's
Okay.
on.
Yeah.
So, one mosquito less. There was
These are the
almost no
last
sound.
words of
He died without pain because he was absolutely immediately disintegrated in flames. Yes. So I like honestly, I don't like
incinerated.
killing insects as opposed to what you just said. That to me that's ridiculous. You you're crazy. You don't have to kill them all. But mosquitoes, man. By the way, I'm a huge insectophobe. I really have a problem with insects, right? I really, really have a problem with insects. But I would go out of my way for
I
any little
don't.
insect, anything I can do to
Yeah.
like throw them out or something before even thinking about, killing them. But mosquitoes, like, I don't get it. Why do they have to exist? Like,
If I had three wishes, one of them would be for all mosquitoes to die. I don't care. Ecosystems will adjust somehow. I would wish for them to
yeah,
be
yeah.
obliterated.
Do you remember
Do you
when
know
I
that
told
they
you the
cause,
joke
out
why
of
there's
all
no
animals, they
mosquitoes
cause
in
most
China?
deaths?
Everybody killed their own mosquito.
No, why?
No, but it's just a lot of them. You could have used India as an example. There's also a lot
That's
of them.
horrible
Why
and
is that
racist.
racist? Look, do not turn into that guy. You said there's too many Chinese people. That's racist. Well, there is a lot of Chinese people, but still racist. Well, okay, I just said China. You said China. You racist.
Turning
So
it.
no, let's not go down that path, please.
Listen, listen. I might move to China. I know that they are sort of
Yeah, sure.
persecuting Christians, but if there's no mosquitoes, I'm willing to take that risk. You know, Mr. B, you're hereby sentenced
If
to
you
life
say
imprisonment,
so,
but no mosquitoes.
if you say so,
Yes. Okay.
I'm fine with that as
That's
well.
fine.
But anyways, I think we finally talked about work, and I'd like this to be the last time we talk about work because there's so many, so much more, so many more interesting topics that we could talk about, and
Amen.
laugh a bit more. So we got this off our plate. Um, I'm more than happy to discuss
Yep.
anything, really anything else other than work, politics, and climate change. Thank you. No. What's the name of that kid? What's the name of that kid? That Swedish.
Oh, are you referring to, sorry?
I just asked you because I knew you're
Greta
struggling with the name.
Thunberg. For some reason, I can't pronounce it. It's
Yeah,
Thunberg. I mean, it's not even that
yeah,
difficult to
okay,
pronounce, but
okay.
man, I have some issues with
So
it.
so climate change. Hmm? you think it's real? Hmm? Hmm? The global warming and all that?
Well, I said, just look at the
Hmm.
graphs showing, um, average
But
temperatures
the
per year.
universe, it's
Okay,
expanding.
maybe it's not man caused, but it's real. Yeah.
Well, that makes no sense.
Well, why can't it expand in such a way that it kills all mosquitoes?
Look,
It
as somebody
doesn't,
who
but
really, really,
it
really,
would
really,
be
really
very
extremely
pleasurable.
does not like mosquitoes, I would wish total annihilation on them. I would rather have them convert to Christianity,
Yeah.
for example.
So you would have like billions of Christian
Yeah, but it would
bloodsuckers
be
swarming around.
there would be a
And
special
all of those
form of
bloodsuckers
commandments
are
for them,
literally
like
women.
do not bite, so it will be sin, and they will have to repent.
Okay. Let's think about this.
No,
Christianity,
I'm
while
just thinking
most
about I'm just
numerous
thinking about
religion at
like
this point, was
somebody
never
from the
the most
church,
numerous
like
religion.
a
So
priest, listening to the podcast and like preparing a red stamp which says blasphemy and be like,
yeah, okay. In that regard, in one Facebook group, I gave a totally
oh,
serious
so okay,
answer
okay, yeah, you're
to
pretty much
would
stamped
relics
already.
reanimate during zombie apocalypse?
Yeah, and you
So
were
this is
part of
pretty low key.
of one of the most blasphemous forums ever, which
Oh,
we mentioned in one of our episodes. So I'm pretty sure you're already long gone on that road.
okay. Just for some clearance, if you came in late to the projection, I was part of a forum that M didn't like, so it wasn't some let's mock Christ.com or something. Just to be clear, uh, a theological Orthodox forum. So no, it wasn't.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
like
share your favorite gore video or
like
something.
when there's a conference and they set up multiple big screen TVs with Twitter walls that just automatically show whatever you write using a certain hashtag.
Oh man, no, who thought
Yeah,
of
but it's like
that?
that's
But it was
that's how
2013.
that's how humanity
It was a
progresses
forgivable sin
through
back then.
trial and error. But man, oh man, you really need to link that video in
And
the
you
podcast
were the
description.
unlucky test
Like
dummy.
people really need to get some value out of this podcast. We've been blabbing about work for
I will send it
45
right
plus
away.
minutes. I apologize to everybody.